Okay, so hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. So, welcome back to the series of webinars that we are organizing jointly as a collaboration between the Global Ambassadors of Sustainability and the Global Green Chamber of Commerce. And today we are having the second Global Forum on Public Policy, Diplomacy, and Sustainability. So I'm inviting Ms. Michelle Thatcher for an opening remarks. The floor is yours, Ms. Michelle.
Yes, thank you so much, and welcome everyone who's joining us today from online, and also our renowned speakers. So happy to have you here. As you can see, this is a very global audience, and represented definitely by our speakers from Jordan, India, the United States, Uzbekistan, Pakistan, Malaysia, and I know that we have so many more of you out there online, and we would love to hear where you are joining us from, so please put it into the comment section. I also wanted to make an announcement that we have an upcoming event in Turkey, and it will be part of the Global Sustainable Development Congress, which runs June 16th through the 19th. And this is the session that the Global Ambassadors of Sustainability is hosting. And so we hope everybody, if you're in the area, can join. Because today we're talking about policies, I wanted to share a new project that we have. It's a new database that you would have access to over 500,000 different types of sustainability policies. And these are direct policy language, so it's a great way to kind of compare and contrast, not reinvent the wheel if you're looking for particular types of policies out there. So it's free. Anybody can go online and access this. It has a whole array of different types of subjects, from climate change, energy, waste, and more. And we really designed it with advocates, policymakers, researchers, and business leaders in mind, that want to move towards more sustainability or environmental types of policies. So we looked at very diverse resources. This was a goal that I had many years ago, to put together a policy database. But before we did that, we said, well, what exists out there right now? Let's not, going back to reinventing the wheel, let's not try to do that. And so, as opposed to us creating one, what we did is found a whole array of different environmental policies databases that already exist, to collate them and put them in one. So it's a centralized resource. We're constantly updating and improving this. So if you know of databases that are not on here, but that we can put them on, we'd love to share them. And it's it's really environmental legislation at an unprecedented scale. That we don't know of anything else like this. So it's a valuable tool. This is just a snapshot of one of the screens that we have for comprehending, comparing, and analyzing against each other different environmental policies. And you can see these are all on the global level, but we have national and regional levels as well. Again, a wide range of topics, which you'll see in the next slide. With our unique search option, you can kind of focus and saying, oh, I'd really like to know more about environmental agricultural policies, air quality, etc. And so if you're out there online, you can use this QR code to access the policy database directly. And please share it with others, and please reach out at any time to let us know that you may know of another database that we can put up there as well. But yeah, we hope that everybody can use this, and I feel like it ties in with today's topic for sure. I want to thank Dr. Wissam, which without him, we wouldn't be here today. Also, our team, we have Constance Rabi and Ali Halaman, who will be out on LinkedIn to help with all of the questions and comments coming in as well. But without further ado, back to you, Dr. Wissam.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ms. Michelle, for these remarks. And we'll start with our first guest speaker, Dr. Dina Abdelkader. And Dr. Dina is the Director of the Peace and Conflict Studies at the University of Massachusetts, Lowell. So the floor is yours, Dr. Dina.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a great pleasure to be amongst colleagues and scholars. I'm a political scientist and a comparative politics specialist at that. So I'm going to talk about what my research has been about. I research basically governance, Islamic governance, because I think at the heart of public policy, at the heart of diplomacy, and at the heart of sustainability, it is important to understand that democratization is necessary. And there is, whether we talk about the MENA region or whether we talk about Muslim countries, there's a huge need for researching what do we mean by democracy. Well, for sure, I do not mean Western liberal democracy, because that's always, the golden sort of standard that everybody measures up against. But throughout my years of study, I found out that this is a very dysfunctional way of doing things. Comparisons are not really the best. They're just two kind of similar, but in many ways different approaches to democracy and democratization. So it is essential to kind of define what an Islamic state is. What is a just Islamic state that could create this public policy platform, this way of sustainability, whether it is environmental or any other public policy related policy. So the roots of an Islamic state depend on basically defining the difference between human conduct and faith-based conduct. There's a huge difference between the two, and sometimes, and for historical reasons also in Western Europe predominantly, those two get mixed up. Islam defines the human conduct as mu'amalat, and defines faith-based conduct as ibadat. And therefore, basically, there is a difference, in textual sources between what is dhanni, what is doubtful, right, and what is qat'i, what is absolute. So majorly, the faith-based conduct is qat'i, is absolute. It is clear in the text. But things like governance and how people should conduct themselves amongst themselves is part of what we call doubtful issues. That is to say that there is room for interpretation, room for human reasoning. And so my research basically focuses on that segment, and I talk about what is called maqasid al-sharia. That is to say, the goals of applying Islamic law. And the goals of applying Islamic law, basically, historically, again, even when they conflicted with textual sources, we have precedents of practice that people chose to go after human reasoning. Okay. Maqasid al-Sharia basically say that we have to preserve life, we have to preserve the faith, we have to preserve the mind, we have to preserve posterity, and we have to preserve wealth. Those are the 5 tenets, basic tenets of Maqasid al-Sharia. Now, basically, whenever we talk about an Islamic state, it is also always assumed that we are talking about a theocracy. Okay, and obviously, as I just explained, this is far from what we're talking about. So basically, my field of political science and comparative politics is very it is very problematic because things have shifted dramatically in the field, so that a lot of Americanists have jumped into international relations and comparative politics, and that has affected basically the methodology that is used to explore differences among societies. So, in my opinion, political scientists' results demonstrate anything significant about the norm under study. But all political science shows in this situation, all it can ever show is achievement or non-achievement of the proxy measure that the political scientist has chosen to stand in for the norm's own validating conditions. This is precisely, what I mean by the sacrifices of political relevance on the altar of methodology. So there is a polarization in research methods between, like I said, Americanists or scholars of American politics and international relations comparative politics scholars. And I will quote here, a 2009 survey found out that 68% of IR scholars in the United States use mainly qualitative methods in their work, while 23% use mainly quantitative measures, and 2% use mainly formal modeling. Only 4% of articles in International Security from the 1990s use statistical methods. So this shows you how much of a jump in 2009 and going forward, the field has changed. I will mention just an example of political irrelevance. There is an article that is published by the American Political Science Review in 2018, one of the leading journals in the field, titled Social and Institutional Origins of Political Islam. So the article's main hypothesis is that political Islam was not founded or stimulated by Western missionary activity. And I quote again, we can detect no statistically significant effect of Christian missionary activity in patterning branch formation and the presence of large European populations in a district significantly reduce the likelihood that a Muslim Brotherhood branch would be established. challenging the arguments that attribute the growth of political Islam to contact between Muslims and the West, end of quote. So the article measures, and it quantifies those measurements relating to the non-existence of Muslim Brotherhood branches in European districts. Okay, obviously this really is a very very it doesn't really capture what was happening on ground, and this is what I'm talking about in terms of irrelevance. So basically, what I'm trying to say here, and I'll kind of sum up at that point, is that Islamic theory is in crisis in academia. So theory in general is relegated to irrelevance in academic political science discourse at large, which is something that we need to help basically create this understanding of what an ideal Islamic state is. Secondly, there is an abundance of non-specialized articles and studies that utilize quantitative methods in a superficial way without contextualizing historical and cultural experiences. So basically, those are the issues that basically come up for me as a researcher. So historical context of consolidated democracies versus contemporary Muslim societies is needed. The increase in number of factors affecting democratic transition, basically the role of regional politics, the role of international hegemons, domestic interest groups, and the inability to apply theory to practice all stand as challenges for anybody trying to basically create and understand the reality on ground, and also to create proper theory to basically project what a just society is, what a society that needs to apply public diplomacy, public policy, sustainability are. And I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dina, for these interesting remarks. And I think now we move to the next speaker, Dr. Jasmeet Lamba. And Dr. Jasmeet, she's a professor at the O.P. Jindal Global University in India. So the floor is yours, Dr. Jasmeet.
Thank you, Dr. Wisam. Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope I'm audible, everybody.
Yep.
Great. So, and I would like to thank Ms. Michelle and Dr. Dina for such a great start of the webinar. Definitely the international politics, democratization, all these are the essentials of public policy and diplomacy today. I would like to talk about my focus for today's talk. From international politics, I would like to bring the focus on the multinational corporations today and their behavior towards sustainability, or let's say towards the ESG goals. ESG basically stands for environmental, social, and governance. So as Dr. Dina also mentioned about the governance, the democracy that we are looking at today, and the proxy measures that are going around the world, truly mentioned by her, definitely. So my major concentration of the current research is basically on these proxy measures that big corporate giants are using across the world. They are the revenue earners. They are definitely looking forward for profits. In lieu of the same, they are spoiling our earth, the atmosphere, the environment. All these things are being hampered. I am not against industrialization, but I am more pro, or rather, the research is more concentrating upon how to build up sustainable manufacturing processes and technologies that can help us for better attainment of life, for a better quality of air. Greetings from India. I am talking from New Delhi currently, and the air outside, or the smog as we call, I do not live around an industrial area, but the air, the breathable air is still, it is very high from the regular ppm levels. So these are certain aspects of industrialization that we all need to take care of. And I would like to move ahead with the goals. I think, next slide, please. Do you want me to keep changing or okay? Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Michelle. So yeah, what is ESG? I would like to just give a brief explanation about it. Environmental aspects are taken into consideration. How are the investment patterns made? What are the energy efficiency levels? What would be the GHG emissions from such industries? What would be the impact on social life, the health and safety, the human rights concern, of course? What are the working conditions of people within the industry and people around, the local people? And finally, the most important part is the governance part. What are the ethical standards being followed? Are they being followed or not? Most of these corporates, I have some case examples. I will not go through all of them, but I'll be more than happy to share the presentation. These case examples, some of them have pledged towards the sustainability. They said, some of them said by 2025, which is currently on. Now they have pushed it ahead to 2030. So what exactly is happening? Why are we not able to put some strict measures on these corporates? Right? We want growth. We want to look into better technological aspect also. We are looking forward for luxuries as well, but at what cost? The sustainability is at cost, and that is the major research area that I am taking ahead. And next slide, please, Ms. Michelle, if that's possible. Okay, we talk about the business responsibility and sustainability report also talks about that there has to be a combination of all the regions of the world in such a board meeting. Okay, whenever we are talking about multinational corporations, they are all around the world, they have businesses everywhere, but are they representing every region wherever they are working, or wherever they are having customers from? So all these aspects are to be taken account. What are their CSR activities? Are they bound to take these CSR activities or not? What are their working health conditions, employee welfare and benefits, provided, not provided, or is it only on the papers that they show, but actually they are not doing anything? So, moving on, please. These corporates, all those who pledge with ESG standards, these are some basic standards, and I also uh, saw about IEA, the International Energy Agency, Dr. Dina also talked about. These are certain standards that these corporates are bound to follow. Are they actually doing it? If they were actually doing it, then I don't think so. The sustainability was in question today. But definitely they are playing around with the sustainable standards, the reporting standards. And is there an agency that questions these MNCs? If you're not able to keep up with the pledge, what happens then? Why do we have to induce carbon taxing? Why are these norms being followed? So certain questions are there, or rather certain research gaps are there, which I would like to deal in the future also. I would like to go ahead with the case example. Is if you may please scroll down 2 3 slides. The Volkswagen. Yeah, next please. One more. We'll come back to these also. I'll discuss these. One more. Next is I would like to talk about, yes, the Dieselgate scandal that happened with Volkswagen engines. Such a brand name, a worldwide name in automobiles, and they created this kind of a software which played with the pollution test, and they played internationally. It wasn't just a local example's sake, it is an international scandal that happened. uh, some of us did buy these automobiles as well, these cars rather. They, in Indian terms, they costed lakhs. And imagine the ppm levels, what was supposed to be the nitrogen oxide levels at that time period when the test happened, their engine was cleared. But when it actually hit the road, it was 40 times the legal limit. And that created lot many issues with the functioning of the car, and the entire image of this kind of a brand was at stake. Operational risks were there, definitely. The cyber security risks were there. But overall, the customers were cheated upon. Not just the pollution test, the international pollution test, but customers like you and me, we were cheated upon, and the entire money was a waste. The car was a waste. They had to pull back 11 million diesel vehicles because of this kind of a scam. What happened later on? Yes, they were fined and everything happened, but the loss to the environment was already done. Now, this is one case example, but the problem is, if we talk about governance, no country per se is still taking note of such softwares or such a technology that these MNCs are using. Maybe today also they are cheating the pollution test. That's a question mark. What are we doing ahead? What is the policy regarding this now? So now I'll talk about a positive case example. Maybe if one more slide can be pushed up. Uh, one more, please. The BlackRock is also a good example. Another one, please. I'll talk about the Nike shoe factory. One more, please. Now, this ESG in manufacturing and supply chain management. Nike is one of the greatest examples. They brought in the circular economy in picture, and they made this kind of a product which is made by recycled product. Okay, but the questions are now, what is the durability of such products? If I'm spending so much money on these products, are they lasting long, or they are only for 3 to 6 months time period? So these are certain aspects. Of course, we need better technological aspects. We need better manufacturing units. We need more green technology per se, in the at least in the corporate sector today. And I would like to stop here only. I'm noticing some questions also. I will answer all of those. But yeah, my question and my research gap here stops itself, because we only talk about policy measures, but what are these big MNCs doing? Are they actually looking forward to sustainability? Are they actually keeping their pledge towards the zero carbon emissions? Earlier it was 2025, now it is 2030. Some of the companies have postponed till 2050. So what exactly is happening? Will we keeping on postponing these, or are we actually working towards some sustainable factors? Thank you. Thank you so much. I would like to stop here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Jasmeet, for this enlightening presentation. And I think now we move to the third speaker, Dr. Ivan. And Dr. Ivan is a social policy economist at the Westminster International University in Tashkent from Uzbekistan. So the floor is yours, Dr. Ivan.
It's an honor being with you today to discuss about a topic that I think public policy will dominate from now on, with the problems we have worldwide, and especially with scarcity of natural resources. So my topic, can we move the next?
Dr. Ivan, you can control it from your side. I think you can move it.
Okay, great. Okay. My topic is rethinking pension sustainability, which is, aligned with, the theme of your, conference. Although my current research lies, on policy, because the last 10 years I change and I write papers in real time, meaning based on the events that take place. So now the papers that, I wrote the last 3 months has to do with Trump administration and how this, affect, Chinese, Canadians, and probably I will write another paper about, European Union and how these, policies are moving to the right direction. So let's focus now. And the problem with sustainability is, what is sustainability about? Sustainability is that we have to live with what we have. And the problem is that we move from an economy with abundance of natural resources to an economy of scarcity. So from globalization, we're now moving back to deglobalization. And that's what is going to happen. And that's what we need to do right now. It needs to find solutions. And in our case, in, social security, how we'll manage to deal with that, because everything, become reversed, and see how this will affect also, the area of social security. The first challenge are that for pension sustainability is climatological. As you see from this nice graph, all over the globe shows glacier, meltdown, not only in the Antarctica or in the Arctic Circle, but everywhere. So this how will be affect, our socioeconomic dynamics, because you have to remember that economy is a mirror of our, way of life. And if our way of life will change, automatically it will change also the way we do, public policy, and also how we operate in terms of economics. Now, here we'll see another key challenge, which has to do with age population. In this nice graph, we see that unfortunately, most of the areas, worldwide, they have, reached at least 50 years old on average, age, which shows, clearly that worldwide our population, is aging. And I don't know how we can, reverse these things, because this is related with high standards of living. And I taught, develop economics this semester, and I saw from, some scholars from, Netherlands, that all of us were moving to that direction, that eventually we will reach the level of European or North American countries, that, the population will decrease no matter what. Next, here is about uncertainty. These are the certain events that take place, and as you see here in the last 20 years, and how this event can affect, and brings a political uncertainty. And I found this graph in order to put also the events that take place, the last, 5 years with the COVID-19, and how COVID-19 affected all of us everywhere. And this, of course, affected also, social security and pensions. About macroeconomics, the dynamics. Another key challenge, global and regional growth. Regional growth has been, as you see, more or less to 3 to 4%, or let's say 5% worldwide, which shows that we cannot go, further and experience those 10, 15, or 20%, growth that most of the countries experience, in the 70s, before 70s, during the golden era of Europe and North America. Perhaps we'll experience in Asia, but the cycle will be much shorter due to population magnitude, which of course this change everything. About inflation, as you see, inflation, it's more or less at the reaches the level of global and or regional growth. What does it mean? It means that the real value of pension diminishes, meaning that money for those who are retirees are not enough. And we need to find a way how this, and this problem will be increased in the future, along with, prolonging aging. And this is the pension fund performance. As you see, how also follow the same pattern with regional and global growth. Why? Because most of the pension funds, they invest, in the stock markets. Of course, they are conservative investors, which means they need to keep, the capital intact and try to apply, conservative policies because they see always in the long run. But of course, since they invest in, in the capital markets, this has as a result, also to experience, certain, losses in the long run. Portability across borders. What has that to do about that? Many countries experience, immigration. Many of migrants, when they retire, they want to go back home. However, most of the countries, there are no bilateral agreements which allow to take, their pension, go back home. I give an example from my country. Many Greeks live in Australia, and when the Greek Australians wanted to go back to Greece after 50 years, they realized that they have to be physical present once per month in order to get their pension. Of course, after bilateral agreement between Greece and Australia, this problem solved. But this is something that can solved bilaterally with very few countries, and this has to be fixed to the near future. Now, and why it has to be fixed? As you see, the number of migrants in worldwide is increasing. From 1960, it reached probably 200% more than that we have right now. People are moving around. It's easier to move around, and they want better, way of life. This creates imbalances, especially in pension systems. And these are the numbers which they don't lie. Migrant, wages is $5.5 trillion per year, and the insurance is from $7 to $65 billion per year, and the migrant, pensions is about $3 to $5 trillion per year. And these are numbers that most of the governments needs to reconsider because they underestimated the purchase power of retirees. This specific group has a tremendous purchase power, and they have certain needs, perhaps different needs from us, but they still have this, ability to move the, income flows around, and we need not to underestimate, but rather to make them, to keep them, with us. I give you an example. In the United States, retiree Americans used to, retire in Florida, but when Florida becomes so expensive, many Americans, they move to Latin America. Why? Because it's cheaper. Costa Rica, 15, 20 years ago, you can buy a nice, mansion in front of the beach for $50,000. So people need a way of life, a good, standards of living. If they cannot find in their own place, they can go somewhere else. And this is something that we need, to avoid, because this is a leakage, for the economic leakage. And this is something that you'll see for the first time, as I mentioned, the rise of technologically displaced or displaced tech. What does it mean? It means that because of AI and technological advancements, certain parts of the population will not be join the market. Why? I give you just in one sentence. You cannot take one plumber to turn into a software engineer. This is not possible. 50 years ago, someone who wants to change, jobs 3 to 4, 5 months, would, train, and he will shift easily. Now you cannot do that. Meaning the only people that will be adjust, only those who have already, education, basic education, bachelor degree, in order to make this adjustment and move from one field to the other. But still, they need probably the microcredits can help to that. And in 2-3 years, they'll have the proper qualifications in order to make this transition. But those who have only high bachelor, a high school diploma, it's highly unlikely that they will keep up and, with these changes. And that's why we're moving to a term that you have already, heard about it, universal basic income. Universal basic income, it's an idea from many governments worldwide to show that they don't want to say about this, new, social class of technological displaced people, that each one of us, they supposed to have a social welfare and a minimum income. Why? Because If a large part of the population will be outside of the system, you know what's going to happen. The people will try to defy the system. So we need to keep them inside and try to find a way how to put them back, in track. And that's where universal basic income comes, in order to solve somehow the population, problem with population that cannot keep up with technological progress of their own country. Next. This is the one of the future, a solution for public pensions portfolios, sustainable finance. Since there is a problem with conventional capital markets, everybody wants to move to in line with ECG, policies, sustainable finance. This is a way out for public pensions in order to be able to provide, the returns that the retirees require, but also the returns that the pensions themselves require in order to remain sustainable. And these are some examples of the countries that they've, apply these global public social policy innovations. As you see in the Netherlands, they provided flexible retirement with EFG investing, the Chile mandatory private pensions plus digital accounts, Canada with pool risk sharing with CPP enhancements, and Norway with sovereign fund with climate risk screening. Norway, as we see, and Netherlands are far away, applying this kind of strategies that and to move to that direction, where still most of the countries worldwide try to find a solution how to solve the sustainability, problem with, conventional techniques and strategies. What are the recommendations? First of all, we need to foster ESG mandates and green investment criteria. This is something that all of us, we have to move to that direction. We need to develop cross-border pension treaties. As I mentioned to you, these bilateral treaties are not enough. People move around, and we need, this kind of treaties in order people to feel safe that when they retire, they can go back to the country if they want to. Implement inflation index pension schemes. This is something it's considered standard, but standard in only developed countries, not for developing countries. And this is something that need to be applied from all, pension funds. Support digital access and transparency. Of course, we have to move to digitalization of pension systems like, the governments. And current phased and flexible retirement policies. This is something that we need to take consideration, because Generation Z changed now the attitude, and they don't want to work as we used to work, and they want to take, breaks, long-term breaks, which means in the end, these guys probably they will not have enough, working years in order to get retirement. But this kind of strategy is based on what they see, the last 5 years, that, and they heard that pension schemes are not sustainable, which means in the end they will never get pension. So if they don't get pension, what's the point to work for 45 or 50 years? And then it's a hybrid defined benefit, defined contribution systems benefits, and I think this is the future. What does it mean? Something that also governments needs to apply. Guys, we need the governments has to be flexible. They need to apply private management with public, structure, based on the assumption that every of those public servants needs to get, to get fired. Otherwise, we will keep people that they are not exactly efficient, as President Trump is doing right now. What else? And concluding remarks, that's, about the global pensions. I think that we have certain risks that we need to take care of. Why? Because I have the feeling that the next bubble, big bubble, will be the pension funds. The only funds right now worldwide that they are still in the market and they are holding most of the capital markets worldwide are the pension funds. If we don't pay, if we are not very careful and take the proper measures, I have the feeling that the harm will be irreversible. And thank you. This is it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Ivan, for this interesting presentation tackling different aspects of sustainability. So I think maybe we can now move to the next speaker, Dr. Iyad Yaqub. And Dr. Iyad, he is an assistant professor at the Arab American University in Palestine. So the floor is yours, Dr. Iyad. You need to unmute yourself, Dr. Iyad.
Hello.
Yeah, Doctor, we can hear you.
Hello. Okay, I'm sorry because the Wi-Fi and the internet is not good here now.
Okay.
So,
The same
can I
problem.
share my file, Dr. Wissam?
Yes, sure. So do you like to present from your side, or you want me to present it from here?
Please, if you can do it from your side,
Okay.
Doctor.
Yeah.
Can you do it, Dr. Wissam?
Yes, I'm trying now.
Dr. Wissam, share the screen. First of all, I would like to say hi for everybody here, for my colleagues and for the participants. My name is Dr. Iyad Yaqub. I am from Palestine. I am working as a CEO for the Climate Change Center in Arab American University in Ramallah.
Yes, Dr. Iyad. So now it's being presented.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Wissam. Again, thank you, Dr. Wissam, for let me to present my presentation for my colleagues. Today, I will talking about Palestinian public policy framework. As you know, in Palestine, we have a unique situation and a unique case study because, you know, when we're talking about sustainable development, I think everywhere in the world you talk about a regular situation. But in Palestine, the sustainable development
Dr. Iyad, we can't hear you. Dr. Iyad, are you there?
Nope.
I think his connection is frozen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe while we wait for him to come back, I'll just make note of who is joining us and from where, or different locations around the world. Hopefully he'll be right back. We have people from Switzerland, Syria, Brunei, UAE, Kenya, quite a few from Nigeria, Morocco, Pakistan, Poland, Indonesia, Kurdistan region of Iraq, India, Belgium, Saudi Arabia, Penang, Malaysia, Jordan, Gaza, Tunisia, Nigeria, Palestine, Pakistan, Yemen, Ghana, and Jordan, and lots more. But those are just a few of the different regions where we have people joining us from on LinkedIn right now.
Yeah, Michelle. So maybe we can move to the next speaker, Dr. Nurwandi. Dr. Noor, can you unmute yourself? So,
Sure,
Dr. Noor, he's a security and political analyst and a senior lecturer at the University Technology Mara from Malaysia. So the floor is yours, Dr. Noor.
Thank you for the kind introductions. I'm Dr. Nurwandi Manodin from University of Technology Mara, Malaysia. It is a grateful honor for me to give my point of view in this context of discussion. So basically, I'm going to just try to share my screen here to look whether you all can have a grab of my short presentations of the issue. Okay, let me just put it here. Hold on. All right. So, okay. Can you see my slides?
Yes, now. Yep.
Yes. All right. All right. Thank you. I'm Dr. Noniwandi Maknudin from Center for Media Information Warfare Studies, UiTM Malaysia. Basically, this is my contact number. Of course, you have to put 60 in front for Malaysia number. And I have a web to talk about my achievements, my media appearances in drniwandi.com. So basically, I am a fellow of Operation Psychology in Malaysia University. So technically today we have talked about diplomacy, and I will share to you, this is the model that came out in 2012, but it's still relevant until today because I do believe that in the context of diplomatics, whether you talk about sustainability, we talk about the Palestine issue. In fact, my PhD is on the Israel public diplomacy, studying on how Israel capitalized on its diplomacy activity to look over and to win over the perceptions and the narrative, and of course the security over the Palestinian people. So in this very tragic incident, what happens between the Palestine and Israel could be discussed in context of diplomacy. But the broaden up of the international relation conceptual model in the context of diplomacy is much more further than that. If we look into the context, which could look into the elements that we have in the diplomacy, informational, military, and economics, it's very important to understand that all this context of international relation conceptual model depends much more on the national policy and national security element. Because these four contexts of time, diplomacy, informational, military, economics, we have a significant element in producing what is important for national policy and national security. But in whatever it takes, as what we have the thesis of the tariff war today, the sustainability of the threats of the economic valuations over the world, if we look into what Trump has responded into 254 tariff over China, it is a part of the public diplomacy element using the diplomacy and economic cake of portions of diplomacy, but it is also a process of psychological operation to show the world that US is very powerful, US is very dominant in the context of diplomacy, in the context of pushing ahead to champions the wall of diplomacy, but at the same time also showing the strengths of its national policy objective and national security. Because when Trump won the election, we have known that Trump used the MAGA, making America great again, and he fully utilized the media components to enhance his domestic achievements through the foreign policy. And of course, this is something that we have to look in a very significant way, understand how international relation conceptual model can visualize the core elements of the public diplomacy using diplomacy, informational, military, economics are basically on the renowned element of national policy and national security. And we have talked about the rhetorics about looking into some of the things that this is all about the importance of being a superpower, importance of becoming champions in the regional domestic war that we have until today. But in all the contexts, we have also to understood that all the elements of national policy and national security become the priority in deciding and determining what are the elements of the foreign policy that will be translated into the psychological operations. And psychological operations shouldn't be looked at a very negative perspective, because psychological operation is basically an art of deploying a public diplomacy, utilizing all the elements such as the media and of course through the foreign policy by using some significant or simple elements of foreign office, ambassador and diplomat. So this is my take on the international relation policy model, just to give a brief understanding of how the sustainability also works in accordance of the public diplomacy context. Let me just give a brief example of what we are doing in terms of this context. For example, we have a ZOFAN. We used to be a ZOFAN, which is very neutral in terms of not participating in any form of superpower biasness. We participate accordingly. We negotiate. We are basically using public diplomacy as part of our national security policy and national security objective. But in terms of ASEAN sustainability, Malaysia being the chairmanships under Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim, 2025 becoming the ASEAN chairmanship for now, it's very important to understand that ASEAN have a strong, reliable on the public diplomacy as ASEAN national policy and national security objective. For example, ASEAN Sustainability Defense on ASEAN Political Security Committee, which talk about non-intervention policy, we talk about political stability, but the most important part, ASEAN really believe in the formation of political stability using a very much public diplomacy, non-intervention policy and looking into that. But in a broader context, when you talk about tariff war, will ASEAN benefit of this tariff war? Will ASEAN facing a problems due to its sustainability of this economic element? And we have known that this become a significant issues in ASEAN, although ASEAN populations have close to 600 millions, and of course the amount of GDP are growing. But we have a tier of our ASEAN country, growing up country, middle countries like Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Brunei, and Singapore, comparatively to other low tier of countries such as Cambodia, Laos, and so other countries. So this become a element of how the sustainability ASEAN can survive on public diplomacy alone. And when Trump and China war tariff have moved public diplomacy into a certain extent, it is significant to us to look into how this situational in ASEAN we have. So by looking into this iteration conceptual model, we should be able to understand that psychological operation is important to sustain the fundamental belief of what's happening in the context of US and China public diplomacy tariff war, the psychological operation that moving forwards with no form of ending for now. China have stopped its Boeing productions or Boeing's import to its country, and they have also declared some OEMs declarations to go against the war of the high public diplomacy, and all involve the psychological operation. But for the sustainability of certain countries that be affected by this tariff war and other form of elements of diplomatic glitch in the regions, particularly US and China, we will also have to look into how significant this build up of international corruption model will sustain the ASEAN capability in maintaining the sustainability. And of course, in the climate change, Trump has opted out from the Paris Agreement. So it's also become whether Trump does not really believe in the futurist element of diplomacy. Psychologically, operation, he believes that he only works for the interest for the current narrative, current situation of account. But this is US take. They have all decision to take. They have all the right to do so. But we bring it into the realistic view of how public diplomacy in the further area, in the future era, to look into how psychological operation can become a pure dominant context in looking into the public diplomacy element. So this is something that I would just like to share, a very brief understandings of the certain context of today by looking into our understanding on how we visualize these certain things, how we look into these further aspects, the relation between the public diplomacy, national policy, national security objective, and the context on how it will deepen out into the context of media psychological operation, because we are moving into a very technically, very situational issues, whether we are talking about the end of public diplomacy. Is public diplomacy still reliable, is still available in the current context of the tariff war, and how it affected countries like ASEAN, and how it affects the sustainability of the issues. For example, on the climate exchange, on other formations of the human rights, regional rights, and all the issue situation that we have, because it seems that the tariff war have tried to shift and to move diplomacy to the higher extents and towards something close that might be the elements towards the end of diplomacy or the changing elements of diplomacy that eventually will affect the global sustainability that we have in our current situations. And I open my discussion for any debates, any further view of this, just a few takes or minute for us to have strong consideration. But that's my point of my brief presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Narwandi, for these interesting remarks. And now we move to the next speaker, and the next speaker will be Ms. Laylatul Zuraida Hussein. She's a consultant at Niaga Compliance from Brunei. So the floor is yours, Ms. Zuraida.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to my Muslim colleagues, and also a very good evening to my esteemed other speakers. I think I'm here to actually share my views as a diplomat and also as a policymaker for 32 years. with my government. And I'm sorry to say that it has been an uphill struggle for us policymakers and even for diplomats, because I think I resonate with what our last speaker has just said, that whether our commitments are actually at par, and whether things are, really going the way we actually want. And I also echo his stand. Thank you for raising ASEAN's commitment to sustainability, especially in climate change. Is the connection okay?
Yes, we can hear you. But maybe if it's breaking, you might like switch off the camera. So Ms. Zoraida, can you hear us?
Connection's a bit bad.
So yeah, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yep. So I think, yeah, we'll go back to the presentation.
Yes, and I would like to actually state that these are my viewpoints as a policymaker and a diplomat on the ground. And a lot of what my fellow speakers have said resonates with me, that actually it's an uphill struggle, whether we are all moving in the same direction. So I think I don't really need to go through this first topic. What are we dealing with? So sustainability and diplomacy and policy making. And of course, the prescription is for policy making to actually prescribe what we can do for social wellness. But then again, diplomats will actually, so this is a local scene as policymakers and international for diplomats, and supposedly meant to be part of the sustainability drive. Next slide. So what are the challenges that we actually see? So there is actually a lack of global frameworks. I think our previous speaker has just said that, with Trump's direction and China's direction in this, and even blocs, for example, ASEAN. But if I may mention here that actually in terms of climate change sustainability, I must actually state that ASEAN has actually set up the ASEAN Climate, which is actually in the Bangkok. So this actually shows our commitment of ASEAN as 10 ASEAN member states, with Timor-Leste as an
So Ms. Zoraida, can you? Okay.
The people who actually, yes?
No, because the sound was breaking, so it's fine. Now we can hear you.
Okay. Did you listen to the first part?
Yep. Okay, so I think Ms. Zoraida dropped from the line. So I think maybe we can go to the next speaker. The next speaker will be Ms. Iqbal Hamad. and Ms. Iqbal. She's a senior advisor for community development and sustainability from Jordan. So the floor is yours, Ms. Iqbal.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Wissam, and I'm happy to be with you today. Allow me to keep my camera off because I face some issue with my internet. So let me start by my presentation as by saying this statement or sentence about sustainability is not just an environment concern. It's about building long-term resilient systems for people, planet, and prosperity. And NGOs plays a crucial role in making that happen. So from this statement, it's clearly, I will talk today about like the sustainability and the role of sustainability and why the sustainability matters today, and especially for NGOs in the sector. So to start with, so what is sustainability in the NGO context? Sustainability means meeting today the needs without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their needs. And it goes far beyond simple going green. It's about building long-term resilience in systems and communities. NGOs in general, often operating on the front lines of a crisis, play a vital role in ensuring that their interventions don't only address immediate needs, but also contribute to preventing recurring problems. So to have a real and lasting impact happens when solutions are designed to be enduring and community owned. So sustainability in general, we are trying in NGOs to engage the communities and different actors on board to ensure that the interventions is really address the people needs, as well as also to fulfill with the actors objectives or goals. In this sense, sustainability is about achieving long-term outcomes rather than short-term aid, and empowering communities instead of creating dependency, and strengthening local system to foster resilience over time. So the other point, which is about why sustainability matters in the NGO's work, while short-term intervention is very important, especially in times of crisis, but they are no longer enough. So with the limited resources and increasingly the challenge that we are around us, such as climate change, conflict, and displacement, we must do more with less. So donors in general and communities alike are calling for long-term solutions that go beyond the immediate relief. And before most of the interventions, before even the sustainability aspects come live, most of the activities for the NGOs, it comes like for the short term, just like implementing these activities, even without engaging the communities. And then after the project is phasing out, then there is no really an impact on the ground. And we think and we expect from the people to continue and to serve their communities with what we are just started with. So communities need systems that can sustain themselves well beyond and the life cycle of individual people. And this is where sustainability plays a critical role, ensuring that the programs continue to deliver impact and don't collapse once external fundings end. So how NGOs are advancing sustainability? Of course, this I can give quick examples like community ownership, to localize the leadership and decision making, and of course to have a contribution from the community. For example, let's assume one of the interventions from the NGOs is to build, for example, as a water cisterns or water harvesting systems. And if there's no a contribution from the people themselves, then there will never happen the ownership, or at least believes on the interventions that given by the NGOs to the community. So the ownership of the community is very important and a need. even in our intervention, we need to become green by green practices. So reduce the environmental footprint in the programs and operations. So we try like to adopt some climate, like some environmental policies when it comes like to in the implementation, and also to engage the other actors to understand what our policies regarding the the climate and the environment issues, as well as how to link these two with the sustainability. The livelihood projects moving, for example, from cash aids to skill training and job creation in order to make our intervention system for long. So we try like instead of having this short interventions to create a long one by, for example, building the skills for the community, creation jobs, which is of course we have to make sure these jobs do no harm to the environment. Regarding also the importance of the advocacy and policy change, which is tackling root causes of the of lacking of sustainability of our interventions. For example, especially when it comes like to if like agriculture sector, for instance, if we have we don't have the lands for the people to implement their activities, for example, or to farm their lands. And so one of the issues that if there's no an assets, so it will be difficulties for people to continue. If there is no access to the resources, this is another thing so that we need to consider and to advocate for it and try to change the policies especially when we are talking about displaced people, and with the refugees as well. There is a lot of actually approaches developed by the NGOs, which is really addressing and tackling all these issues, which, for example, in terms of the climate smart agriculture. And this is another methodologies used by the NGOs to build the skills for the farmers to have last long impact interventions. Of course, like the final takeaway, I can just give some points here. Sustainability is a responsibility and a mindset. NGOs must lead by example, not only supporting sustainability, but also operating sustainability in terms of designs, implementation, evaluates the programs. NGOs must model sustainability, and let's move from emergency to empowerment, from response to resilience. So the goal is not just to respond, but also to transform systems so communities can thrive with the dignity and resilience. And this is will not be happened and become a real if we are not having this kind of the partnership with the different actors and multi-actors, from policymakers to the private sectors to international agencies, as well as the CSOs and people themselves. Thank you so much for listening. I'm happy to answer any questions, if any. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Engineer Iqbal, for this again, trusted remarks, bringing the element of NGOs into the perspective of sustainability and community development. So I think we have Ms. Zuraida back. So yeah, if you'd like to continue.
Yeah, sorry about the lack of connection, Dr. Wissam, and speakers, team speakers.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, so I think if we can just go back to my second last slide, Dr. Wissam, please.
Yeah.
On the challenges.
Yeah.
So yeah, as I stated, being a policy maker and a diplomat for 32 years, I've actually seen the challenges that we face in maintaining sustainability or achieving it. So I think the first thing will actually be a lack of global frameworks. I think we all agree that there has been progress in climate diplomacy, but we do need to address interconnectedness of social, political, and environmental factors. So this is not, it looks very good on paper, but it's actually very, very hard to implement. especially when progress in different countries are dependent on different resources and leadership and so on. The second challenge that I think I would like to mention is balancing development and sustainability. Finding the right balance between economic growth and environmental protection is crucial, but how easy is it to achieve? So again, I do what was mentioned by previous speakers on sort of like the gaps resonates with me, because it's not really easy to put action to paper as prescribed, basically in usual policy papers or white papers. And then the third will be addressing social justices. So there is a need to ensure policies benefit communities and support equality. Of course, that is the ideal. As policymakers, the idea is we serve the public, especially in terms of public policy. But again, implementation is much more different than what is actually on paper, which looks very, very good. And I think I shall actually conclude in my last slide. In a nutshell, what I think sustainability in public policy and diplomacy is, it's actually a very complex area, but it's very, very vital. By integrating sustainability into national and international agencies, and by leveraging diplomacy to facilitate cooperation, we can work towards a more just and sustainable future. Again, the operative word for me here is actually we can work towards a more just and sustainable future. But on the ground, if I can share, what I feel that I have faced is actually awareness. Do we have a common language, or do we have public resistance to actual policies? And is there misinformation of those policies? Are we actually, as policymakers, conveying it clearly to the population at large or the country of what the ideals are? And what are the rules of the game? So this is actually where I see different countries have actually different progress stages. They have actually different energies in pursuing sustainability. So what if we think about maybe harmonization of international agreements and best practices? I mean, we have that on paper. I mean, this forum is actually a very, very good platform for sharing of best practices. But how do we actually get it up to those people who actually are in the driving seat? And again, sharing knowledge, innovation, technology, that is also critical to sustainability, as we all agree in this forum. Baseline current reality. So where are we now? So what are the impacts and policy gaps? Have we actually looked at it? Have we measured it? Because what I know is what we can measure, we can improve. And let's look at the challenges and the conflicting economic interests. Again, this is actually another area which is very, very critical, but very, very difficult to mitigate. And diplomacy is actually one area where we can actually maybe strengthen that sort of mitigation. So assets, funding, resources. Again, this is at different levels for different countries and different agencies. And have we identified our stakeholders? Do we really know who they are? Have we reached them? Are they in? Have we got their buy-in? So there's inequality between nations. I think we really just have to accept this reality. And how far are the enforcement of agreements? Very, very good to actually have all these agreements signed. But how far have they been impactful, and how far have they been progressive? So again, we look at geopolitical tensions. I thank the other speakers who have highlighted that there are policy wars, and there are also blocks. For example, ASEAN, which I actually mentioned earlier. ASEAN is a Southeast Asian member states of 10 countries, and we also have Timor-Leste as an observer. And how committed we are to climate sustainability is that we have actually set up a climate change center, which we have all agreed to. We're all contributing to, and we actually hope to make a reality in Bangkok soonest. So again, a lack of accountability and transparency. Again, this goes back to information sharing. This really goes back to the real idea of what do we really want to achieve in sustainability? Are we really committed? How committed are we? I think these are the questions that we really need to actually look at, and especially so for those in the driving seat. And my third point will actually be compelling vision. This is actually where we all think of the future. And can it really hit home for all of us? Again, this is a global commitment. This is not just a one country sort of like more committed than another. It has to be a move for all. So can we look at those potential solutions to challenges together? So again, I think this forum is a very good information sharing platform where we can share best practices. So then we can actually then decide on the priorities. So we can look at the 4 sustainability principles like environment, social, economic, and human. But then we should actually look at our core purpose and our core values, because without a clear vision or a purpose, we can never know what our mission is and what we want to achieve. So maybe that should be clarified. And, you know, there are some things that we actually need to unlearn and relearn. So this should be an ongoing, consistent learning process for all. And we should actually look at national interest versus global good. So really, sustainability is really for planet Earth and for all our populations in the future, generations. So we really need to be serious about it. And well, let's look at conflict resolution again and coordinate aid and funding. So again, I think as a policymaker and a diplomat, this has to be a joint effort by all. We really have to be committed to it. And when I mean committed, seriously committed, with some conviction to ensuring that the future is actually sustainable for our future generations. Thank you very much, Dr. Wissam.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ms. Zoraida, for, again, another interesting sharings with different angles of sustainability, bringing the elements of diplomacy to the picture. So I think we can now we can have some questions from the audience for the speakers before we conclude the session. And so let's have some questions. And I think we start with questions for Dr. Jasmeet. So there is a question here, how to set ethical conditions within the ESG. Dr. Jasmeet.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think I did reply, but so ethical conditions, again, you know, it comes from the leader. One has to be following proper strategies, and ethical leadership is the major concern here. I did mention in my message also that if the leader of an organization is corrupt, the entire organization goes down. The image and the value of that organization also goes as corrupt. So in this case, in ethical case scenario, we got to have some very strong basic policies, ethical policies, and ethical leadership is the concern here.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Jasmeet. So maybe we can have, so for Dr. Ivan, there is a question from Indira. Based on your comparative research across different pension systems, what sequences of reforms do you find most effective for countries transitioning from unsustainable defined benefit system towards more sustainable model without creating undue hardship? Dr. Ivan.
Based on my research, all the reforms that took place either in Latin America or in Europe or even in Asia, they are short-term, meaning they solve the problem for now. That's the and when I was in Malaysia, because I got my PhD from Malaysia, and I checked the system. What I tell to everybody is that pension fund, the provident funds, is the future. And why? Because EPF that Malaysia has, it's what I mentioned to you previously, that a model where the private management is private, but the organization is public. This and gives the opportunity to make, these kind of contributions. But at the same time, you can take out, money if you want to buy a house or whatever. The only problem with EPF is that they don't force retirees or the, pension members to put the money back. And as a result, when they retire, there is a gap. I will tell you something that I found out based on, mathematical models I run on pensions. It doesn't matter how many years you will work. Either you work for 45, 50 years. In the end, even if these funds will be invested, the maximum that they can provide the systems is 15 years. No more than that. That's why most of the European systems are, in deficit. The only one, I think it's Denmark, that provides, 14 years of, pension. And that's why most of the governments around the globe, they increase, aging, standards. But this is not working. Don't expect someone 70, 75 years old to keep working. So, because as far as I remember, economists from Harvard found out that someone who is 40 years old compared with 60 years old, a male, lose 35 of its physical capacity, which means everybody knows that after the age of 65, it's really hard to keep up, working. So if we cannot keep up working, but we have, we have the ability to live longer, 80 or 90 years old, in certain countries that, they reach that level, we need to find alternative ways. We need to find ways how to invest, or let's say, we need, unfortunately, the pension fund has to step in and coordinate the life, of the pensioners. For instance, the big cities, when you retire, you cannot survive. You need to live. Especially in the United States, everybody knows that, you cannot keep a house. You need, when you retire, to sell the house that if you are living in New York, in Los Angeles, or, Washington, and go somewhere smaller. Why? Because you cannot keep up with the cost of living, which means that people, they have to leave. So to go where? One solution can be retiring in the village, to create, places that retirees can, retire there, but we have to control the cost of living, meaning they cannot, operate based on supply and demand, where now the government steps in. I'm not in the public pensions. I had a conversation with an ambassador from, from Chile, and I told him, I know that you saw that the work, your system is working, but what is going to happen when the private pensions will bankrupt? You have to step in and you have to, to solve the problem. I said, yeah, you are right. So, it is a short term. The public, pensions has to be public, not private. Private can be complementary, but they cannot, replace the public or the government, because government theoretically will never collapse, where a public, a private institution, or even insurance. That's why I'm against, to have life insurance. Why? Because you don't know whether this organization will keep running, especially in this era that we live in, for the next 40 years. And most of the retirees, lose, everything. So it is a challenge. I believe it is not only my expertise. I need expertise from all over, the fields, in order to find a solution. Because as I told you, sustainability is something that we need all of you, all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Ivan. So I think we will take the last question, which is for Dr. Jasmeet. And so as artificial intelligence and digital technologies transform society, what specific sustainability opportunities and threats do these technological shifts present? And how might your various fields, from law to economic to media studies, need to adapt to harness these technologies for sustainable development?
If I get the question correct, we are looking forward for pros and cons for better technological aspects, especially towards these multinational corporations. One of these speakers, Zureda, she did mention about global framework. We need to have certain stringent and strong global policy measures towards these greener technologies. And we also need to generate some aid and funding towards these green technologies. Some companies are doing it, like Nike. I mentioned a case example. Nike did come up with a product which is 50% recycled and 50% new. So they did come up with the new technology. It is expensive, of course, and Nike could afford it. But maybe other brands, other shoe brands, or other clothing brands cannot. So it has to be affordable. And if the technology is affordable and greener, we are definitely looking forward to better sustainable options. So these are some pros that we are looking forward to. Cons, definitely, one thing is the impact of these fumes or non-healthy working conditions on the workers, on employees. What are these trade unions doing? Are we doing something for them or not? It is hampering the health of the employees as well as the local community. What is happening to them? Another con is the domestic demand and supply pattern. What is happening with domestic manufacturers if these big giants enter into the market? So these are certain safeguarding policy measures that we need to adapt. The world needs to adapt, actually. We do have good black and white written policy measures. How much are being accepted and worked upon is a question mark. That is what my research talks about. Thank you, Doctor. I think I was able to
Yeah.
answer it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jasmeet, for answering this question. I would like to thank all the guest speakers, all the audience who participated, and the question raised by them. I would like also to thank Ms. Michelle for the opening remarks and also assisting and moderating the forum, and the team also, Constance, for her technical assistant. And this is, I think, an added value to the discussion where different elements being brought to the perspective of sustainability. And I think this is the aim of the forum. Because not many people discussing the issues of diplomacy, public policy in the domain of sustainable development as part of the challenges facing implementing the sustainability agenda and the SDGs. So maybe, Ms. Michelle, you want to have some quick final remarks before we close the session?
No, I just want to say thank you again, everyone. We could not be here without our esteemed speakers and especially our attendees. This has been a consistently global audience with all of our speakers as well as our attendees, and they're coming from all over the world, even more from Egypt, Mexico, Kurdistan, Rwanda, so many more. But thank you for participating. And as I mentioned in the comments, each of you are part of our global sustainability family. So look forward to seeing you in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ms. Michelle. So yeah, thank you again for the speakers, for the audience, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks' time in another webinar and more guest speakers to share their knowledge and experiences, and also open up opportunities for international networking to make the sustainability agenda as a practice, as a lifestyle for the betterment of humanity. So thank you so much, and have a good time, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Bye. Good night.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good night. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.